And he uses it to save, invest, or buy things and all those other things on which just about all of them are taxed again by the government. And one of the reasons why we had the highest revenue intake, I think one day in April this last April, than any time in the history of the country. But of course, there's that other side, things that are not working. What is not working is the longer-term picture. Not that long, but the fact that it's not immediate and immediately on our watch and not going to affect us maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow does not resolve the issue. We are locked into a mandatory spending cycle now that's going to bankrupt the nation if we can continue on the same pattern. It's just that simple. Every economist in the country that takes a look at it, it's halfway objective. Every government official, David Walker over at the Government Accountability Office, everybody uses the word unsustainable. Unsustainable, the path that we're on. We are blessed with the fact that we're living longer, healthier lives. One of the reasons is because regardless of the cost, which is an issue we can talk about another day, but we have the best health care in the world, and we should never forget that. Fewer and fewer workers, however, proportionately to the retiring community. So we are in danger, if we don't do some things differently, of changing a blessing into a curse for the next generation. And I think we're better than that. I don't think that we're going to do that. Now, discretionary spending, of course, is always an issue. The pork barreling and the earmarks and all that get a lot of publicity, as well as they should, and it's an activity that needs to have the whistle blown on it each and every occasion. But it's really the tail of a much bigger dog. Discretionary spending in general, where our military resources come from. Only spending 4% of the budget now, thereabouts, as far as our military is concerned. We're going to have to do better than that in the future. Hate to tell folks. So as that discretionary side gets squeezed, we think back to prior times when our nation was in conflict, and the fact that the discretionary side of the budget was reduced drastically. Not in this case. I think I read where in the Korean War it was reduced 25% in 1 year on the discretionary budget side. Not us. Guns and butter for us. All the way. All the way. But again, this discretionary part is a smaller and smaller and smaller part of the issue. We must look at the mandatory part. There are things that we can do now that doesn't have to hurt anybody, and it will be much, much better than on the sustained path, where if we do nothing, it's going to hurt everybody. We could have the same level of Social Security benefits, for example, and adjust the cost of living increases to cover inflation, benefits plus inflation. We'd solve the problem in probably 75 years on Social Security. It's just one example. And yet, you don't hear much talk about it. But with this out there looming over our head, threatening to eat up our entire budget, if you extend it out over the years, there are those now who want their first thing on their agenda is to let the tax cuts expire, doing the one thing, depriving us of the one thing that is fundamental to work our way out of these fiscal problems, and that is economic growth in this country. It would set economic growth back in this country. And while we're talking about growth and competition, while we're at it, we've got to address the fact that we have the least efficient tax code in the world. It's a mess. We got to address it. We've had commission and advisory panel one after another, come up with recommendations about the way we can consolidate these various programs. Simplify the tax code, put on the back shelf, not given any real consideration because we can't agree on those things. As we fight with each other in Washington over all things, large or small, don't come together on any fundamentals anymore, as if we didn't share the same goals for this country, which I know fundamentally that we do. My friends, I think the American people are waiting. I think they're waiting for us to take that case to them as to what is responsible. What is the responsible thing to do for our generation? I don't think people are as selfish and self-centered as they think they are. I think politicians will be willing to take a risk a little bit every once in a while. You'd be amazed at how well that turns out for you, even politically. I managed to carry Tennessee twice by 20 points each. And I think that the thing that was most valuable to me is always I knew I had term limits I put on myself, and I knew I was going back home on these days soon anyway, regardless of how my thoughts were received. Now, it's not out of a sense of a brashness, but it's out of a sense of a freedom to speak what you believe to be the truth. My friends, I see us as a nation of free people in a free country that rewards work and innovation, a good nation that takes care of those who can't take care of themselves. And that includes our own children and our own grandchildren and those yet to be born. In this country, we are steeped in the tradition of honor and sacrifice for the greater good. And the greater good today is the continued prosperity of this nation. I would think that that's a very good reason to be a member of this organization. And I can tell you, it's the very best reason to run for President of the United States. Thank you very much.
Let freedom ring.